Living Gnome, 2008. A creepy gnome was caught on film in Argentina. Jose Alvarez, who filmed the gnome, reported that they caught the creature on film while lurking about in their hometown of General Grammys, Argentina. He stated, "We were chatting about our last fishing trip. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. I began to film a bit with my mobile phone, while the others were chatting and joking. Suddenly, we heard something, a weird noise, as if someone was throwing stones. We looked to one side and saw that the grass was moving. To begin with, we thought it was a dog, but when we saw this gnome-like figure begin to emerge, we were really afraid." Other locals have since come forward to say that they have spotted the gnome, and the town has been covered in a pall of fear ever since the first sighting. The devil's footprints in the night of February 9, 1855. After a light snowfall, a series of hoof-like marks appeared in the snow. These footprints, measuring 1.5 to 2.5 inches wide and 8 inches apart, continued throughout the countryside for a total of over 100 miles. Although veering at various points, for the greater part of their course, they followed straight lines. Houses, rivers, haystacks, and other obstacles were traveled straight over, and footprints appeared on the tops of snow-covered roofs and high walls. The footprints also led up to and exited various drain pipes as small as 4 inches in diameter. There were also rumors about sightings of a devil-like figure in the Devon area during the scare. Many townspeople armed themselves and attempted to track down the beast responsible, without success. Recently, on the night of March 12, 2009, more strange marks corresponding to those left in 1855 were found again in Devon. Jeffin, September 1931. The Irving family claimed to hear persistent scratching and rustling noises behind their farmhouse's wooden wall panels. At first, they thought it was a rat, but then the unseen creature began making different sounds, spinning like a ferret, growling like a dog, or gurgling like a baby. The creature soon revealed an ability to speak and introduced itself as Jeff, a mongoose. It claimed to have been born in New Delhi, India, in 1852. According to Eerie, the daughter who was the only person to see him properly, Jeff was the size of a small rat with yellowish fur and a large bushy tail. Jeff variously claimed to be an extra clever mongoose, an earthbound spirit, and a ghost in the form of a weasel. He once said, "I am a freak. I have hands and I have feet, and if you saw me, you would faint. You'd be petrified, mummified, turned into stone, or a pillar of salt." Voirie Irving, who took Jeff under her wing, died in 2005. In an interview published late in life, she claimed that Jeff was not her creation. James Worsenin, September 3, 1873. A man named James Worsen had accepted a challenge to race in record time from the town of Leamington to the town of Coventry, a 20-mile trek. He had been boasting of his foot skills and was asked to prove them. With sporting good spirits, he set out to do just that. 2 friends, Hammerson Burns and Barham Wise, followed behind in a horse-drawn carriage. Burns brought along his camera. Worsen was never out of their sight and would often turn around, while running to exchange some friendly words with the 2 riders. Running in the middle of the road, Worsen suddenly appeared to stumble and pitch forward. He had time for only one short, piercing scream. Wise later said, "It was the most ghastly sound either of us had ever heard." But as Worsen pitched forward, with a terrible cry, instead of falling to the ground as he appeared to be about to do, he completely and totally vanished mid-fall before ever striking the ground. The road itself told the story, and Wise took the pictures to prove it. There, in the soft dirt, were Worsen's footprints. They led down the middle of the road, looked as if the runner stumbled, and then they disappeared. A search was called, and the locals scoured the area for James. The bloodhounds used in the search were strangely reluctant to approach the spot. Where Worsen disappeared, he was never seen or heard from again. Larry, August 7, 1973. remains a day of mystery and possible tragedy. Several people in New Mexico that day, using CB radios, heard the disturbing cries for help from a little boy. He said his name was Larry, and that he was trapped in a red and white pickup truck. He was with his father, who he thought had a heart attack and was dead. He said that they had been on a rabbit hunting trip when his father collapsed on the steering wheel. Larry claimed that the truck had flipped over into a ravine and that both doors were jammed shut, making him unable to escape. The boy's signal faded in and out over the next few days and was also heard in California, Wyoming, and Arizona. In a panic, Larry began to flip between channels, crying for help. Police began a search and rescue team. One helicopter pilot, who was searching the Manzano Mountains in New Mexico for Larry, says that he made contact with a little boy calling for help, but he called himself David, not Larry. A family traveling from Missouri was reported missing on August 11th, and they had a son named Larry, but they were eventually found. On August 12th, an army sergeant claimed to have spoken to the boy for 3 hours, but could not get him to give more information. The woman on November 29, 1970. A father and his daughters were hiking in the Isdal Valley in Norway when they came across the partially charred remains of a young woman. She was surrounded by a large quantity of sleeping pills and bottles of gasoline. All the clothing she was wearing had the tags removed, and her fingerprints had been sanded off. A dental screening was done, and some of her dental work was performed using techniques only found in Latin America. She was eventually traced back to 2 suitcases at the NSB train station in Bergen. Her luggage contained a prescription lotion with the doctor's name removed, a few pieces of broken glass with partial fingerprints, and 500 German marks, the equivalent of $350. Under the lining of one of the suitcases, they discovered that the woman had traveled by train across Europe under 9 different names. There were diaries found with her, things that contained cryptic notes, which the police deciphered as codes listing the places she had been. Witnesses say she wore wigs as she traveled and spoke several languages, such as French, German, English, and Dutch. She stayed at several hotels in Bergen, and after checking into each she would change rooms several times, always requiring a balcony, and always ordering porridge with milk for room service. A local man told the police that 5 days prior to the body's discovery, he came across a very elegant woman while hiking. He noted that she wasn't dressed for the outdoors, much less for a remote hiking trail, and that her face was distorted with fear. He claimed that she attempted to mouth something to him, but was followed closely by 2 large men in black coats. The man waited 32 years to come public with this story, stating that when he contacted the police, the officer who answered told him, "Forget her, she was dispatched. The case will never be solved."